A Stormy Day is an extract adapted from the novel Black Beauty, written by Anna Sewell. She wrote this novel from the perspective of a horse to convey the message of kindness, sympathy, and humane treatment of horses. It is a realistic story of an animal narrated in the first person, the horse named Beauty. Each short chapter in this novel recounts an incident in her life containing a lesson on morals, typically related to sympathy and kindness towards animals. In this chapter, Beauty narrates a journey on a stormy day along with her master, Mr. Douglas, a very kind and loving nobleman, and his caretaker, Mr. John Manley. A Stormy Day, adapted from Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. One morning, late in the autumn, my master had to go on a long journey. John harnessed me to the new cart. I liked to pull it as it was very light and the high wheels rolled along so smoothly. There had been a great deal of rain. It was very windy and dry leaves blew across the road. Master, John, and I went along merrily till we came to the toll gate at the entrance to a low wooden bridge. The river banks were fairly high, so the bridge, instead of rising in an arc over the river, went across just level. In the middle, if the river was full, the water would be nearly up to the foot of the bridge. There were good, sturdy rails on both sides, though, so people were not afraid. The man at the toll gate said that the river was rising fast. He feared it would be a bad night. Many of the fields were already under water. In one low part of the road, the water was halfway up to my knees. But the cart was good and master drove gently, so it did not matter. When we got to the town, I had a good wait. Master's business kept him for a long time, so we could not start for home till late in the afternoon. By then, the wind was much stronger, and I heard Master say to John that he had never been out in such a bad storm. We went through a wood where great branches were swaying about like twigs, and the wind made a terrible rushing sound. "I wish we were out of this wood," said my master. "Yes, sir," replied John. "I hope no branches fall down on us." The words were hardly out of his mouth when there was a groan and a crack and a splitting sound. Then an oak tree that had been torn up by the roots came crashing down and fell right across the road in front of us. I will never say I was not frightened, for I was. I stopped still and trembled. Of course, I did not turn round or run away. I was not brought up like that. John jumped out and in a moment was standing by my head. He held my bridle and calmed my nerves. "That was close. What shall we do now?" asked my master. "Well, sir, we can't drive over this big tree and we can't get round it. We must go back to the 4 crossways. Then it will be about 6 miles before we get to the wooden bridge again. It will make us late, but Beauty is fresh. So back we went. By the time we got to the bridge, it was nearly dark. We could just see that the water was over the middle of it. That happens sometimes when the river was flooding, so Master did not stop. We were going along at a good speed, but the moment my feet touched the first part of the bridge, I felt sure that something was wrong. I dared not go forward. I made a dead stop. "Go on, Beauty," said my master, and he gave me a touch of the whip. But I dare not move. He gave me a sharp snap of the whip. I jumped, but I dared not go forward. "There's something wrong, sir," said John. He got down from the cart and came to my head. He took hold of my bridle and tried to lead me forward. "Come on, Beauty. What's the matter?" Of course, I could not tell him what the problem was, but I knew very well that the bridge was not safe. Just then, the man at the toll gate on the other side ran out, flashing a torch about like a madman. "Hoi, hoi, hoi! Hello! Stop!" he cried. "What's the matter?" shouted my master. "The bridge is broken in the middle. Part of it has been carried away by the flood. If you come any further, you will be in the river." "Thank God," said my master. "You really are a beauty," said John, as he took hold of my bridle and gently turned me round. The sun had set now. The wind seemed to have settled down. It grew darker and darker, stiller and stiller. I trotted quietly along, the wheels hardly making a sound on the soft, wet road. For a long time, neither Master nor John spoke. Then Master told John that God had given people brains by which they could find out things for themselves. He said, however, God had given animals a special knowledge which did not depend on thinking things out and was much more quick to respond to danger. This instinct in animals, he said, had often saved the lives of men. John had many stories to tell of dogs and horses and the wonderful ways they have saved the lives of people. He thought many people did not take very good care of their animals or make friends with them as they should do. At last, we got back to Master's house. We saw that all the lights were on. As we came up to the door, Mistress ran out to greet Master. "Are you safe, my dear? Oh, I have been so worried about you. Did you have an accident?" "No, my dear, but if Black Beauty had not been wiser than we were, we should all three have been drowned at the wooden bridge." They went into the house, and I heard no more. John took me to the stable. Oh, what a good supper he gave me that night! And then a really thick bed of straw. I was grateful for everything, for I was tired.
Black Beauty, Chapter 8, Danger in the Storm. One late autumn day, John hitched me to the high-wheeled cart. Then he and the squire climbed in, and we drove out through the gate. The squire had to go to a certain town on business. The town was several hours away, but I didn't mind the work. The cart was light and easy to pull, and the weather was brisk and cool. It had rained a lot recently, so there were puddles everywhere. The wind blew fallen leaves across the road in colorful showers. Soon we reached the first toll bridge. The river was high because of all the rain. The flat wooden bridge was just a few inches above the water. The toll keeper stepped out of his hut.
"The river's still rising,"
he told the squire and John.
"I'm afraid it could be a bad night."
The squire looked out at the bridge.
"Your bridge has strong rails on both sides,"
he said.
"I doubt you'll have any trouble here, but we'll be careful."
We crossed the bridge and continued on our way. When we reached the town, John took me to a local stable to rest and eat while the squire went to take care of his business. By the time the squire reappeared, it was late afternoon. We started for home.
"The wind is getting worse,"
John said as we drove out of town.
"I don't think we've ever been out in such a terrible storm."
The road passed some fields and then entered a forest. The wind whipped the tree branches around overhead, making me a little nervous. The squire also sounded nervous as he spoke.
"I wish we were out of this forest,"
he said.
"Me too."
John agreed.
"I hope none of these branches fall on us."
Just as he spoke, there was a loud crack above us. A second later, a large limb crashed down onto the road ahead, blocking our way. The noise and surprise startled me terribly. I stopped short and trembled. Many horses would have spun around and run away. But I had learned not to do that, and so I stood as still as I could. John jumped out and hurried to my head.
"Good boy,"
he said.
"It's okay, there's nothing to fear. It missed us."
"Yes, but barely.
The squire said.
And now we can't go on. What should we do?"
They decided we would have to go back to the last crossroads and take a different way home. We did just that, but it took a long time. By the time we reached the toll bridge again, it was almost dark. We approached the bridge at a steady walk, but as soon as my feet touched the wooden boards, I stopped short. I could feel that there was something different about the bridge. Something was wrong.
"Go on, Beauty,"
called the squire. He flicked the whip lightly to urge me forward. But the bridge felt so strange, I stayed where I was. The squire flicked the whip again. It stung me a little harder this time, making me jump in place. Still, I didn't dare take a step farther onto the bridge.
"Wait, sir,"
John said.
"Maybe there's something wrong."
He jumped out of the cart and walked up to my head.
"What's the matter, Beauty?"
he asked in his soothing way.
"Come on, let's go."
At that moment, the toll keeper burst out of his hut on the far side of the river. He waved the light around over his head and let out a shout.
"Stop! Stop!"
he cried.
"The bridge is broken in the middle. If you try to cross, you'll end up in the river."
"Oh my,
The squire exclaimed.
what a close call."
"Good boy."
John murmured to me. He took me by the bridle and gently turned me around. Then he climbed back into the cart and we continued down the river to the next bridge. It was built much higher over the water, and we crossed safely. When we finally arrived home, it was well after dark. We found the mistress waiting up for us despite the late hour.
Are you safe?
She cried, hurrying out to greet us.
I was so worried.
Yes, my dear.
The squire said.
We are safe, but only thanks to our fine Black Beauty. If he hadn't been wiser than John and me, we all would have been swept into the river and drowned.
He went into the house, so I couldn't hear any more of what he said. But I was so tired after the long journey, I didn't mind. John took me to the stable and unhitched me. Then he gave me a warm mash with lots of extra carrots, along with extra pats and praise.